Hi, and welcome to Adventure. Joining us today is a renowned expert in video marketing for Amazon sellers. As the CEO of VideoFresh, he focuses on creating highly effective video content that enhances traffic and conversions on Amazon. So he's produced thousands of videos for top brands and Amazon sellers, leveraging performance data and AI to optimize video ads for maximum click-throughs and sales, which is what everyone wants. So please welcome Rob Wiltsey.
Hey, thank you so much. Really happy to be talking with you today.
Yeah, so Rob, we've chatted a few times. I'm one of your biggest fans, but I know virtually nothing about you. So what I want to hear is your journey, your entrepreneurial journey into founding VideoFresh. How did you make that jump from, maybe working for somebody else into owning your own business? And then just what inspired you?
Yeah, that's so cool. I don't get that question a lot, so I'll have to make this really brief. But basically, I've never had a job. I'm 34. I have been making videos for people and getting paid to do that since I was 16. So that's the only thing I've ever done.
Wow.
So my resume is not super long. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, had a lot of different business partners, and I'm selling it a little bit short. I've done a lot of random things, but in terms of primary vocation, that's how I know how to pay the bills. I've done things for big organizations. I've worked with, companies like Nike and Razer Computers and all kinds of well-known brands along that journey. But really what I wanted to do was to use videos to solve a problem, and kind of a problem that seemed like a lot of people were kind of overlooking. And so I started VideoFresh back in 2016. And back then, all we knew is that we were doing subscription-based filming day retainers that are kind of by the filming day. So it'd be hey, in one filming day, we can shoot as many videos as you want, and all the creative work and all the editing is going to go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time went on, more and more e-commerce brands were reaching out to us going oh, we have all these products, we know this help. So it didn't take us very long to realize, oh, here's we kind of built this offering, and who the offering was most valuable to was e-commerce sellers, and in particular Amazon sellers, because they were, I think, even more behind on the video marketing side. So that became our full focus, and we've been serving Amazon sellers almost exclusively now for many, many years. Like you said, thousands of videos, and I think our team is just phenomenal. We're out here in Pasadena, California, and we have a studio where we do a ton of filming, and I've got this team now that is just incredible. They're filming today. I'm doing this really high volume filming day, lifestyle stuff on location, lots of products, lots of nuances with the products that we have to get through and to capture. And so they do amazing work, and that's what we're doing now. And that's kind of our bread and butter. So it's just kind of a process. It's been a process of just listening and adapting, and just, always trying to second guess our assumptions, and just try to iterate what we offer to be better and better for a very specific kind of customer. So we love working with Amazon sellers. It's the most fun thing ever.
Well, that's interesting that you said all of that, because my follow-up question to that was going to be, what's the mission of VideoFresh and how has it evolved since its inception? I think what I find most interesting is that you seem like the creative type, and sometimes the creativity and the business, personalities don't really go hand in hand necessarily. I think the most interesting thing is, you started off as this video producer, this video creator, and instead of having a business concept and then going out and marketing that concept, you're actually kind of have flipped the script and said, oh, this is what the demand is, so let's adapt our business to actually where the demand is.
That's right. And I've had a big evolution as a professional person since I started. I got into this because, like you said, I love the creativity. I loved just making stuff. I made a feature film when I was in my early 20s with some guys too that got
oh, where can we find that?
Oh, I'll send you a link after the show. Yeah, I don't talk about that one a whole lot, but I was trying to figure out what I wanted to go to Hollywood and make films. I think a lot of people want to do that, early on. What I learned along the way was one thing I didn't mention is I actually got my degree in industrial engineering along the way.
Goodness.
So I went to a place called Cal Poly Pomona out here. It's a top engineering school. So back then I didn't know whether I wanted to really do video forever or what I wanted to do. So you kind of nailed something. I've always kind of had this left brain, right brain split where I'm not the most artistic, creative person you're ever going to meet. I have that for sure. I play music. I do a lot of things, but then I've got I want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, that's like kind of my identity is I want to scale something and I want to serve a customer base really, really well. I want to have an awesome team. I want to have an awesome product. I love the entrepreneurial struggle is something that I am very romantic about. I love it. It's hard. It beats you up, but it's like somehow my favorite thing to do. And I, like most entrepreneurs that have been around for, a decade and a half, I've been beat up, along the way a lot, and it just makes you
Yeah.
stronger. And so it is kind of the bringing together all the different things that I think are a part of me as a person. And that's why I'm still out here doing it. So
I love it. I feel a kinship to you now because I feel very similar. I have always thought of myself more as like a creative person, but I've owned both my own business and been in the creative industry. I was in the music industry for about 10 years and produced concerts and stuff. And, it's really hard to make a living that way. So when you can find something that brings you that much joy and something that you're passionate about, but also, can sort of pay the bills is the best of both worlds. But you're right. I think the beauty sometimes with business is in the struggle. I can tell you that it is super hard, but I've probably learned more about myself, my resilience through that process. So there's a beauty there.
absolutely. And my wife is a CPA. She does all the finances. So we do that together.
Oh,
So it's become very cool because it's just become very integrated, into my life. I was doing this before we got married, like, 11 years ago. And now here we are, working together on the business. We got 2 kids, so our life is just, it's just a very special time. Just like you said, just trying to continue to grow this thing and continue to make it valuable. And of course, there's so much change happening all the time in, when it comes to content, when it comes to Amazon. And so it's just constantly trying to stay adaptive, but focused at the same time. But anyways, yeah, so that's kind of my backstory. I mean, I think there's a lot more I could say about it, but that's kind of the big bullet, the critical path to VideoFresh and where it is today. So
well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. But let's get down to what everybody is here to learn about. So I have a couple questions for you about the importance of video content. In today's digital age, why does video content matter more than ever for businesses and brands? And then as kind of like a second part to that, what makes video content so effective in comparison to other forms of media?
absolutely. So video content is and will until further notice, video content is going to be the king. They call it the king of content is video. And there's a couple fundamental reasons for that. I mean, nothing can deliver an emotional package. We can start there. Like nothing can deliver an emotional package like a piece of video content because you're combining motion, you're combining music, which is very emotional. You're combining graphics, you're combining, there's a story that you're telling. There's eye candy. There's all this stuff that comes together, which is why social media increasingly is only becoming video. I mean, it's all becoming reels. It's all becoming, short form video content. And that is one of the most underutilized missed opportunities that brands are not, you could almost never fully take advantage of the opportunity because it just never ends. Expressing your products, expressing your brand, creating thought leadership content. I mean, the role that video can play across your entire brand, not only to, get traffic and conversions, which is of course like really what you want, but even all around that, establishing your brand voice and building an audience and differentiating yourself from your competitors. Video does all of those things literally better than anything else. It's so important. It can't be overstated how important video is. And the only reason that brands don't have more of it is because they don't necessarily know where to start, or it's just time consuming and expensive sometimes to do it. And so brands aren't quite sure always how to prioritize that investment. And so, but it's the other reason that it's important for that it's effective is because if you have to read something, right? So if you look at the other forms of media, which is basically like reading stuff or like photos or, clicking through web pages and stuff, that's all very active. Like you have to, if you're reading, you have to like read with your eyeballs, and that takes a little bit of work. A video,
Sure.
you sit back and the content's like spoon fed to you in, this 15-second.
Yeah. Well, the consumer has changed, right? I mean, that's what they expect.
That's right. They want to be spoon fed the information that matters. They want to understand your product, and that content needs to be very clear. But there's something about a video that's it's the preferred way of consuming information because you sit there and like, if I'm going to try to learn how to use a new piece of software, I don't want to read documentation. I want to go on YouTube and find a guy that's going to talk to me about that for 10 minutes, because it's just nice, right? So I just think those are all the reasons that video is just undefeated and literally will be top of the pile until, I don't know, we're all living in the metaverse or something, and it's a whole different thing. But like until then, it's going to be video. It's going to be little moving rectangles, you know?
Yeah. So I guess one of my other questions would be, how do you, as a brand, making videos, since you're a creator, maintain and communicate your brand authenticity at the same time as keeping up with all of the trends and not getting lost in just the plethora creators that are out there that you're competing with?
Yeah, you know, I think there's like there's two categories of content. I think one category is you're just copying, you're just kind of part of the herd of content. There's always kind of these styles and these forms of content creatively that they're just manifestations of the latest trends. And that is a really good way of just camouflaging yourself into obscurity. Whereas what I think it's always better to do something different, like break a few rules of the trends, maybe do something a little bit counter to the trends, and then you're going to get more attention. I think that there's never been more noise out there. So I think for a brand that really wants to differentiate itself, and because your brand is really your personality. Your brand is a few things, but one way of thinking about a brand is it's like the personality of your brand, of your company, of your organization. And so if your personality, if there's nothing that stands out about it, it's really not doing you any good. I think you have to actually find your voice, and that's going to take some risk. So I think that this is a very broad statement, but like the best way to balance that is like, yeah, be aware of the trends, copy the trends, and then like break a couple rules with your content, if that makes any sense. Like do a couple things that are not obeying the trend. And I think you're going to have more success than if you're just riding the wave of the latest creative styles and trends and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds easy. So all you have to do is forecast what the next trend is going to be before it hits.
Yep. And those actually, those are the trend setters, right? The ones.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think what I'm hearing is what you're saying is definitely put the time in to clarify what your voice is before you kind of start this journey on creating these videos. Really sit down and do that thought process of what does set me apart, what does make me different. And those are the areas that, you sort of should focus on in your creation process.
That's right. And what's interesting about this conversation is that there's so many different ways of utilizing video content that all have very different best practices to them, right? So if you're talking about like a top of funnel Instagram ad, right? Where the audience has no idea who you are. They've never seen you. They have no reason to care. They're just
brand awareness.
It's just brand awareness. Like what you have to do is grab their attention. Like what would grab the question to ask is what would actually grab your attention at 9:30 at night when you're doing this and you're kind of brain dead at the end of the day.
Scrolling.
And you're swiping, right?
Sure.
And you're not looking for anything in particular. What you're doing is you're looking to be amused by stuff. That's really what you're doing at 9:30 at night. That's what I'm doing when I'm just scrolling endlessly.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of meet the customer there. So it's like, does that piece of content need to really manifest the personality of your brand? Probably not that much if all you're trying to do is get a click, get a swipe, right? All you're trying to do in that context is grab their attention, stop the scrolling, and get an action. Then once they move down funnel, then you can start like manifesting your brand in that content. But I think it's like, I do take a very compartmentalized view of content and say, okay, at this exact point in the customer journey, what is the job this video needs to do? And what is the best way for it to do that job? And I think a lot of times maybe imposing too much brand is really kind of beside the point at certain stages of the funnel too. So I'm just very realistic.
I think that's brilliant. I think for anybody listening, that's, if you take anything away, I hope that's one thing that you take away from this, is that you can't just have a blanket approach to your video content. You really need to sit down and look at what area of the funnel is this platform serving, and what tone do I need to use for this platform, which I think is phenomenal advice. So, and also a great segue into what we're going to talk next. We've been talking about social media videos for that, but so what is sort of the best practices for creating effective, like sponsored brands video ads on platforms like Amazon, which is at a different place in your funnel?
Yes, the sponsored brands video ad is just like my favorite piece of ad content because it's such a special opportunity to grab a customer who's ready to buy something in this in the next 30 seconds. This person's going to spend cash. And so it's like it's you get to make any video and pair that up with any set of keywords that you want. So the reason that I think people are totally failing to appreciate the opportunity of the sponsored brands video ad. That's what we see is when you search on Amazon for almost anything, half of what's going to come up in terms of video content creative for those sponsored brands video ads are these things that kind of look like PowerPoints. They're like these like images come up, there's animated text, it might as well be a photo, it might as well be imagery, right? It's all that stuff I mentioned about what makes video content unique and special. So many of your competitors are creating content that doesn't take advantage of any of those things. It's sheer wasted opportunity. The job of that sponsored brands video ad, in my view, is very unique because if someone's looking for a suitcase and they want a suitcase that is foldable, I don't know, like a foldable, collapsible suitcase, right? If someone's typing in suitcase, foldable, what they're then doing, if there's a long tail detail like foldable in the keyword, what they're doing then, when they're scrolling through all the search results, they're literally just looking for evidence of the long tail keyword.
Absolutely.
Where's the foldable one? Is that one foldable? Is that one foldable? I want a foldable one. So all of those competitors, those little listing images that are just like the product on a white background, that is going to be more limited in the ways that they can demonstrate to you that it's foldable, but your video can do anything. Your video, that opening shot better show it folding if what you want to do is grab foldable keyword traffic for your suitcase. So that opening shot, which sounds so simple, and say foldable across the front, like this stuff is not complicated. Think of your sponsored brands video ad as, how can this video be more relevant to my customer's keyword search than everything else on the page? That is the job of the sponsored brands video ad. I don't think sellers are thinking of it that way necessarily. I think they're thinking, oh, what video content do I have laying around that I already made that I can just throw up on this ad? Right. Don't get me wrong, that's still better than nothing, but I think it's just really it can be so much more than that. And so what you want to do is first, like I said, grab attention in the first second, right? So you do want to start with some sort of visual eye candy, but that eye candy should also be relevant to the keyword search. We also think sponsored brands video ads should not be long. Don't make them 45 seconds. We like to go between 8 and like 12 seconds. And what we like to do is hit them with, this is relevant. This is exactly what you're searching for, ideally, right? Because usually most of your products are going to have like 3 to 5 major categories of search intent. So that's the other thing that we do is we will study those keywords and look at what are like the 3. Okay, your suitcase, maybe they want it to be foldable. Maybe they want it to be carry-on size. Maybe they want it to be have certain pockets on it. Maybe they want to make sure it's easy to roll. Maybe they want right, whatever. Maybe they want one that's made of a certain material or whatever. So there's usually not that many major categories of long tail search intent. In a perfect world, you'd have a different piece of creative for each of those categories, run them 5 different ways, win that traffic each way across those different categories, and then keep it short. Keep it like one message, just one message that is affirming what they're looking for is better. What you shouldn't do with your sponsored brands video ads is try to educate the customer about your product. Just intrigue them enough, demonstrate relevance, intrigue them enough to get a click, educate them on the product,
the listing page.
Yeah.
So, well, again, leading right into what we're going to talk about next is, how does that differ? What is your kind of philosophy and the difference between the sponsored brands video and any sort of like listing page video?
Yes. So the listing page video, like you said, that is where you educate. In fact, that video should not hold back on education. You don't even have to you don't have to grab them and be as interesting as you are in the ad, even though that never hurts. But really, your customer has now opted in to watch. They want to learn.
There's an investment. They've invested already into that click.
That's right. So if your customer has clicked on your ad, now they are on your page and they have then clicked on your video, the good news is they want to buy this product. They want this to be the product they are searching for. So now the way that that video can get them to the buy box is by illuminating and answering every question they have about the product, or any point of confusion or any reason they might not buy it, address it in the video. So
100%. Yeah.
you're right there. If they're watching your product detail page video, you're really, really close to the buy box. I think
Yeah. And it really is just buying that customer trust, right? They're literally looking for a reason to not buy this. And the more transparent you can be, tell them everything, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think you said it in a great way. They're actually looking for a reason not to buy, essentially. They're trying to go, is there any reason not to buy this? Does this not meet any of my criteria? So what you want to do is just be very clear in and thorough in educating them about all the features and benefits of the product. So there's kind of like two kinds of products too, which I'm jumping to a different topic, but it's related to this, because we've come up with something called the product utility spectrum. So, and this is a useful thing when we do creative for our videos. There's a lot to be said about the difference between buying a very aesthetic, very low utility, we call them like a want product. So this would be like, if I was at my office right now, I would show you, I have like a fake bonsai tree on my desk that like looks really cool. That bonsai tree does nothing. It sits there. It has no utility.
It brings you joy.
It brings me joy. It looks cool.
Yeah.
And so what a customer needs to know about that is a lot different than if I'm buying like a 72-piece socket wrench set, right? Where I want to know exactly every size that's in the box. I want to know what it's made of. I want to know like all the tools. I want to know, like, is it durable? Is it reliable? Whatever. Like, I want to know, does it connect to different things? So there might not be a ton to educate about, just depending on your product, right? The other example I like to use was like fuzzy dice that hang on your mirror. Like, someone's making those, someone's buying those, right? What do you really need to know? What is that video going to show? Really, that video should just show, it should be pure emotion. It should be like you're driving down like Pacific Coast Highway in a convertible with your friends, and you're hanging out, you're rocking out to music, and the fuzzy dice are just there dangling, right? It's just, you're just giving vibes, because that someone's just purely buying that for vibes. Whereas if it's like, there's a lot to explain, if your product detail page video needs to be 5 minutes long to do that, that's fine. It doesn't really, your customer will be thankful that you went through all the information in that video. So you don't really have to worry about length or anything.
But they might not need the schematics, is what you're saying, on the fuzzy dice as they may on something else.
Much. Yeah, they don't. I don't know if they need to like every feature and benefit about, the materials.
Right.
The dimension,
the tactile sensation of the fur.
The sensation of the fur. That would be really like funny and kind of over the top. Yeah, I think they just want to. I think they just want to get emotionally excited about the product, or I think that's probably the best that product's gonna do. Most products. So I just gave like the extreme ends of that spectrum. Most products are actually in the middle.
Right.
So a good example is like, a guitar is kind of an interesting example, because a guitar is like two things. It's like, how does it sound? How does it play? Those are like utility things. Like how does the neck feel? How does it, like, what features does it have? But then it's also a very aesthetic product. Like it's also a beautiful product that is kind of a decorative at the same time. Like people pick guitars because of the way they look, not just the utility. So same with like athletic clothing, right? So athletic clothing is fashion. And this is the same with like shoes, right? It's like, it's both functional and aesthetic at the same time. So most products are kind of a blend, but I think it's like helpful to kind of identify where you are on that spectrum with your products, because it kind of helps you understand the customer journey a little bit and kind of their psychology and what they're looking for.
No, I think that was a great example to use, because I mean, just knowing musicians, you can put the measurements of a guitar in a listing description all day long, but I may want to see, how does that neck, how long is that neck in comparison to somebody actually holding it, or, how does it sit on the lap? And that's something that you can only get through video. You're not going to be able to communicate that effectively through just text.
That's a great example. Yeah. And there's a lot of things, and that's the other thing, kind of going back to the ads. That's another interesting way that we like to think about it too, is what can this video show that photos cannot show? Even photos a lot of times can't show, because maybe it involves movement, or it involves something where that's your competitive advantage with your video, because you're spending all that money on that video, on those video bids, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, if what your video is doing could just as well be in a photo, you probably should think more about what your video is doing, because there's probably a lot of ways that your video can be doing things that no other medium can be doing, and those are really good ways to think about what your video creative should be. And that
Right.
was a great example with the guitar, like showing someone actually playing the guitar and how it sits and how they just feel comfortable. Like, you just do that so much better with a video, and obviously then the music that the guitar can make
Sure.
can be done through the video too. Oh, I'll add one more thing in there, which is someone brought up recently on another podcast I was doing, which is audio. So if your product makes a sound, if you have, like, I have the Celsius can, like the sound it makes when you crack it open,
Mhm.
sound is very compelling, and sound is a very underappreciated aspect of video. And I think if your product, if you have if your product is like a bag of chips, and like the way it crumples and the sounds that it makes, that stuff's very visceral. It's very, it tickles our lower brain stems. It keeps us watching, right? So audio,
Yeah.
like, now your ads, a lot of people aren't going to be listening with audio. So some people might unmute the ads. Your product detail page videos, people will usually be watching unmuted.
Mhm.
Our research would show, if they're opting into that video, they're probably watching it unmuted, which means use audio to your full advantage too.
What's amazing to me is how many well, and I might not, let me take that back. Might not be a lot of products, but I would venture to say there's some products that are audio in nature and don't even have the video or the audio content. Just as an example, recently I was looking for wind chimes, and
Yeah.
the sound of wind chimes, I was looking for a specific sound, and the number of listings that I couldn't hear them was unbelievable to me. And,
No way.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, roll the dice on wind chimes that I haven't heard first.
That's a great example. And it just goes to show, I think, and this is why we got into this space, is because it was just so clear to us that the video content strategy was just in such an infant state, like across the platform.
Mhm.
That when I first did this, and this was 4 years ago now, but I decided to do my own study on, like, just the total number of products, like, just across all of Amazon, how many listing page videos even have a video like at the top. And it was like, I studied a few thousand listings, just, and they were like randomized, right? And it was around like 4% of listings had
Wow,
a video,
that
because
low.
it's low. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. One of them is, there's an awful lot of products on Amazon that are really obscure, right? Like, when we search, if you go searching in the search box and go clicking on stuff, you'll see a lot of videos. That's
Mhm.
because you're seeing the top of the top of the top of you're seeing the top products on all of Amazon. So
Mhm.
those are a lot more likely to have videos. But total listings on Amazon, which, you go down the iceberg to the just the endless amount of listings on Amazon, it's around like maybe 4% have any video at all.
Wow.
Was what we found, which is right. I think that, and also a lot of these listings, maybe some of these listings predate listing videos too. I mean,
Sure.
a lot of listings
Yeah,
from,
no,
like,
but that's a good point. You should be updating those, right? You should be
yeah,
optimizing those listings for, what's now,
that's
even
right.
if you've had that listed for 5 years.
Right. Yeah. And so it's definitely a competitive advantage. Your competitors are almost certainly not using video nearly to the fullest. And so and maybe you fast forward 5, 10 years from now, maybe video becomes so ubiquitous that no longer becomes an opportunity. So I think there is like a time sensitive opportunity to, like, if you don't have listing page videos, if you haven't clicked with sponsor brands video ads, like, a lot of people try sponsor brands video ads, and they don't necessarily feel that it's ROI positive for them. I mean, most of our clients do, but, like, a lot of people, it's because it's expensive.
Mhm.
And so I think that you definitely, the creative of that content absolutely is playing a role in the traffic, not just the campaign details and everything, but the actual content needs iteration. It needs, you really have to get that content right, or it's like people understand this with like web pages, like conversion rate optimization on a web page. You don't just make one web page your first shot and then just never iterate it. Like
Right.
at least not really legitimate, web marketers. They're gonna iterate that landing page over and over and over. You should be iterating your listing page. You should be iterating everything. We believe you should be iterating your videos too. So that's another thing that we have developed a methodology for, so that that money is you're spending too much money on that to not be iterating it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. So let's talk about strategies. One is, I would think, A/B testing, and then also, if somebody is launching a product versus it's been around for a while, do you have different strategies? If somebody's just starting as a seller on Amazon and can't afford to put a video for every one of their 100 products that they've just launched, what's your strategy as far as where do you put that money so that you're going to get the best ROI out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, video is a conversion multiplier, so it makes the most sense to multiply the top sellers, right? So most clients we work with, if they have 100 products up on Amazon, there's probably an 80-20 thing going on where 20% of those products are 80% of their revenue.
Yep.
So we're focusing on that 20%, right? Because you have to have a certain amount of revenue to like justify the investment of at least like lifestyle video content, which can be kind of expensive, right? Like if you're renting locations and hiring actors, and there's a makeup person, and there's always, those are expensive days.
That's
and
huge, yeah.
if you cross a certain threshold with your revenue, it makes a lot of sense to do that, and that's kind of what keeps us busy. If you're below a certain revenue threshold, it becomes very difficult to justify that. So I would say that if someone's just launching on Amazon, I think that you definitely want to think about what is any video content you can scrounge together that is, you can still have best practices video content like we talked about, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be like, notice I didn't say it had to be high production value,
Sure.
right? It actually doesn't. You could film something on your phone. You could, do something. You could try to get AI to spit something out, although that's limited right now, but we're playing around with that a lot. We're trying to get AI to make product videos, and we've actually delivered a handful, and that will continue to develop. But I would say that, you definitely want to start with I think a listing page video, actually. I would say a listing page video is more essential. If you're going to say what's like the one piece of video content to start with, make sure your listing page has a video on it that communicates the features and benefits of your product in a really clear way. Because most people that start off on Amazon, and I don't know if we're just on someone like with their first product, most of them are not actually, in our experience, they're not spending money on sponsor brands video ads right away, because it is expensive. They're usually starting with sponsored products or some of these other things, sponsored brands ads, but not necessarily video. So just make sure that your listing page has an ad. Apparently it affects the honeymoon period too, to have an ad to have a video on your listing page does impact the honeymoon period. It's something that really helps in those first days of the listing being on, where Amazon's algorithm is judging your listing and like, how worthy is this listing? You definitely want to make sure there's a video on there. That I've heard from a lot of my agency friends that does have an impact. And then we just also know that having a list, Amazon has claimed that having a listing page video versus no listing page, just that boosts your conversions by like 9.7% is what they say, which makes sense to me. I think that's the first step. And finding ways of getting that content made. If nothing else, film it yourself, edit it yourself, watch some YouTube videos, figure out how to throw a video together. Any video content is better than no video content. So don't not have a listing page video because you're like, I don't know if I have the money. Well, then spend some time and get a video up there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's such a powerful medium. I would say, though, that for me, a lot of it is that perceived quality. So just like you're going to invest into a really great website, I would say take that time and invest in, not, as you said, and not necessarily high production value, quality video. Because if I come across a video or a website that looks, you know, a little bit sketchy, that's my, you know, first impression of that brand.
I do think quality matters. I think quality. So I don't think videos are effective because of their quality. I think they're effective because of the words that are said
The message, yeah.
and the message exactly. But I do think that the quality, like you said, reflects on the brand. And if the quality of the video is kind of junky, and that's what we see a lot. We see a lot of like, your product is great, your logo is great, your listing page video is great, your photos are great, everything's great, and then your video is kind of junky, and you're like,
Right.
well, that's like always the weakest link of someone's manifestation of their brand, especially when they're starting out. So I mean, I think that people should really think about, okay, if I'm serious about launching this product, yes, I'm spending tons of money. Yes, it's scary. You know, I'm sinking all this money into this thing. What if it's, you know, what if it's not ROI positive, all this stuff? If you're already making all those investments, I mean, you should, if there's, I would seriously consider like just getting some piece of video content made that is professionally produced, just like everything else you're doing, like at least matches the quality of everything else you've invested
Yeah, I
in.
agree. I think it's really, really important. And, you know, not to mention that that's, you know, evergreen content. You can use that. You're not just limited to using that video content on Amazon.
Right.
You know, you are going to be using that on social media and, you know, maybe on your website and all of these other places. So
That's right.
It's money that can be kind of spread across the board a little bit.
That's right. It's not like this is, it can't, if you're planning on launching this product in any serious way, it can't be a waste of time to have one piece of well-produced video content about
Agreed.
it. And that could be a lot of things. And that doesn't mean it needs to be elaborate or expensive, but it does. I think a lot of people are thinking about their video content as something optional when they're launching their product. And I would submit that it's essential now. That doesn't mean that you need to hire a company to do it. It doesn't mean anything. It just means like, don't think of that as optional. Figure out how you're going to get your video for your product, because to your point, yeah, you can use it on your listing page, and then that raw footage, that base footage, can be remixed as you go. It can't be a waste to have high quality video footage of your product. Like, you can remix that for social ads, you can remix that for all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely an essential thing, and I would highly recommend that everybody have a piece of video content at the launch of their product. I don't know if everyone would agree with that. I mean, but I think, like, I don't know if every agency I know would agree with that. Everything I've heard has said that it literally gives you a multiplier, like, boost on your conversions and on the visibility that Amazon's going to give it, because that's just one more, that just gives you a higher score in Amazon's algorithm, especially
and more legitimacy, I would think, you know, for Amazon's algorithm. This is completely an aside, but I had a brilliant idea when you were speaking about your research into the amount of products on Amazon. So I collect vinyl records, and I use a program called Discogs, and it's like a user database, and it's got basically every record on there. But the cool feature of it is, you know, I have so many albums that when I don't know what I want to listen to, I can open the app, shake it, and then it'll pop up just a random album. And I think Amazon needs to do that. I think we need to be able to open the Amazon app, click on a category, shake it, and some random product will come up. It completely goes against their algorithm, but I think we need to invent that, Rob, and
that's brilliant.
Bring that fun element into shopping.
I love that idea. Yeah. Better patent that while you can.
Okay. All right. You and me. It's being recorded. So
that's a winner. Yeah. That's a great idea.
We've gone a little bit long. I still have just a couple final questions for you. So we've come to the end of the road. What is next? What's next for VideoFresh? What's next for, trends in content creation and videos, AI? Throw it at me.
Yeah, so AI is obviously coming around, and I'm doing a lot of R&D on how that can unlock more down market opportunities for us. So that's where I'm working a lot with brands, is to try to, we've already kind of got the top of the market really dialed in. That's where we really shine as a company, is like doing these lifestyle shoots with lots of products in a day, lots of deliverables. I'm now moving down market right now, working with brands that are at an earlier stage of their, they're a little smaller, they're still on the way up. And a lot of that is AI. I would say that video is just getting more and more important all the time, and it's getting easier to make all the time. And so I think that it's exciting for brands to find new ways. I have a prediction, actually, while I was thinking about your question. So
Awesome.
I think that if you remember back on Instagram 10 years ago, like 12 years ago, like early on in Instagram, I don't know if you remember what companies were doing on Instagram at first, and on Facebook. They didn't know how to use social media. So what they were doing is they were just putting, a lot of times companies would make their like profiles and they would just post like images of their advertisements. I remember people posting images of like newspaper ads they were running and taking a photo of that and putting on, I mean, that's early Facebook. I mean, but that's what people were doing. And then they would make videos like, hi, come on down and get a haircut for me. I'm a haircut person, whatever, like random, like I'm a plumber, like, but now they've let loose. Like brands are so silly now, and brands are so like they finally understand how to use social media really well. So that took like a decade for businesses to figure out how to express themselves in a optimal way that actually grabs attention. My prediction for Amazon on the branding side, on the content side, I think right now, Amazon remains a very stiff place. Content's very stiff. There's not a lot of humor. There's not a lot of personality. Stuff's very clinical. Like, this is the product. This is what it does. We're starting to make a lot more silly content for Amazon. My prediction is over the next 5 years, what you're going to see is you're going to see personality and brand and just so much more. You're going to see the content get a lot more fun. I think you're going to see the people letting loose a lot more with their content on Amazon. And yes, Amazon's very restrictive with what you can put up, but their rules don't necessarily limit that much about how to express personality and earn attention. So I think you're actually going to see more brand building. I don't think Amazon's necessarily the best place to build a brand. I just think that
it'll allow for a little bit more flexibility in that.
Yeah, people are unnecessarily like, I don't know how to. Everyone's self-limiting their creativity on Amazon, and I don't think that there's anything really standing in the way of brands taking more risk with their content, and even on their storefront pages, on their ads, on their videos. So that's kind of my prediction, is you're going to see brands open up in that direction a lot more. And I think there is a big opportunity there. I do think brand is like the last big opportunity for differentiation. If you have a lot of overseas copycats of your product, if you have a lot of different players in your space, brand is one way of standing apart from all of them in a way that's not, they can't be imitated, right? If you do something different with your content and with your brand, you're going to be apples and oranges in the minds of your customers. And so we'll see where things go, but we definitely want to be a part of that transformation, and we're already seeing it, and we're definitely trying to help be an agent for that change. So
I predict that you're going to be 100% right, Rob. I think that we are going to transition from, when you start this partnership with Amazon, you're so, I think, nervous about maintaining compliance. Everything has to be within compliance. Your listing, the verbiage that you use, your photos, your logo, all of those things, false claims and everything. what I'm seeing is a lot of influencers that you're finding outside of Amazon, showcasing their personality, attracting their fan base because of their personality, and then bringing you into their Amazon storefront. And so I think you're 100% right. I think Amazon is going to look at that and sort of flip that and have folks be starting out with an Amazon storefront and showcasing their personality, and that's what's going to attract them. So I think you're spot on with that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And of course, the big meta integrations and everything. I mean, Amazon's becoming a lot more connected to some of these other platforms that are much less restricted. And so that's creating a bridge as well. But yeah, and I think, Amazon, I think, I'm blanking on the name right now, but they like tried to launch almost like an Instagram Reels thing.
Amazon Live or
Amazon Live, I guess. I think Amazon
maybe?
Live
I don't
came
know.
after. There was something earlier than that they were trying to figure out, where it was like creators could like make, and Amazon Live is obviously a version of that. But yeah, I think they're trying to figure it out. But it's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited about the next 5 years on Amazon, because I think you're going to see brands be forced to get more creative and out of the box, because that's the kind of the next frontier, I think, for brands to really differentiate themselves and have massive growth.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch. We have one last question for you. I ask everybody.
Yeah.
The name of our podcast is Adventure. So, what's the biggest adventure of your life been so far, Rob?
Kids, for sure.
I think that's the first time anybody has answered that
Really?
question with kids, but I couldn't agree more.
I tried to answer without any contemplation. Yeah, I got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Well, there you go.
Amazon's fun, VideoFresh is fun, but those 2 kids are my favorite adventure for sure. So
that's awesome. That's an awesome answer. I can't thank you enough for chatting with me. I learned a ton. I think everybody listening is going to learn a ton. If you want more information on VideoFresh, we're going to have a link to their website in our show notes. So please do click on that and keep listening to Adventure for more great interviews in the future. Thanks again, Rob. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much, Jeanette. Appreciate it.
Right. Take care.